So, first off, how many people, or do we need any conversations about simplifying, turning a radical from an entire to a mixed? Are we all pretty confident on that? What's the big thing we need to know how to do when we're turning from entire to a mixed radical?
Prime factorization.
Prime factorization, or the factor tree. Okay, the only other thing I want to highlight is if I'm given the example of the cube root of 120, when I break down 120 into its prime factors, 2 and 60, 2 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 5, first off, is that the only method that I can do? Could I use another setup for my factor tree? Could I have done 3 and 40, 4 and 30? It does not matter as long as you're using a prime factor. Okay. The next thing, when I'm having a cube root, the cube root tells me I'm looking for groups of 3 of the same number. Okay. If it was a square root, like square root of 162, I'm looking for groups of 2. Okay. In this example, I actually have a set of 3's and they are a 2. So the 2 goes out front, so it becomes 2 cube root of, what's 3 times 5? 15. How do I check to make sure that my answer is right?
Calculator.
What am I putting in that calculator?
Both of them and see if it's the same.
Putting my new one in, and then putting in my original, and they should have the same decimal, absolutely. Okay? The only difference, the only other thing that I want to highlight is if you have a variable, nothing really changes. If I have x to the power of 4, x to the power of 4 just breaks down into 4 x's, right? Depending on if I'm looking for the cube root, the square root, what have you, I can find groups of whatever, okay? Whether it's 3, 4, and I do the same thing. Are we all good with that? Straightforward, right? From last semester. Or last, well, before Christmas, okay? Follow along, we're good? Okay. And doing the opposite, if I wanted to do the example 5b, the cube root of ab squared, and I want to turn it as an entire radical, what do I have to do to turn that into an entire radical? What do I have to do with that 5b?
Multiply 5b inside the bracket.
How many? So I have to put that 5b back inside, not the bracket, but
as many
the
times as the
radical. And then how many times do I have to put it in? 3. If it was the 4th root, how many times do I have to put it in?
4.
If it was the square root, how many times do I have to put it in? So my term looks like this now. Okay? So I have the cube root, I have my original, which is ab squared, but I'm putting the 5b back into the radical. So it's 5b times 5b times 5b because it was a cube root. Now I'm collecting like terms. 5 times 5 times 5 is equal to what?
125.
125. How many a variables do you see?
1.
How many b variables do you see?
5.
How do you see 5 and not 4? I see 4 letters.
It's squared on the first
Square. This represents how many b's?
2.
2, 3, 4, 5. Dealing with variables is no different, and it's actually a little bit easier. Sometimes it can be intimidating. However, it's really just as long as you can add and count. Okay? Questions on converting from mixed to entire? Okay. Alright, good. Let's move on to multiplying. Now, when we talked about adding radicals, what was the rule that we gave you about adding radicals? If I had the example 2 root 3 plus 5 root 3, can I add these two together? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay, I need more than 2 people answer the question. Okay? Why can I add these two together? What's the big thing, Zach?
They have the same.
They have the same radicand. The number inside the radicand is identical. Root 3 and root 3. So then I just have 7 root 3 as my answer. Okay? If I have the exact same radicand, I can add or subtract my radicals. That is for adding. We talked about that briefly before the break. We're going to revisit that shortly. When we're multiplying, and I'm actually going to multiply this one first, before we go into the next one. When I have 9 root 2 and 4 root 7, I actually have to multiply this coefficient by coefficient, radical or radicand by radicand. If I want to look at the 9 value first, what do you think, what number do you think I'm multiplying 9 by? 4 or 7? How many hands, show of hands, and I want you to give me a guess. I don't want to see people just nonchalantly doing this. Which number do you think? Is it 4 or 7? How many people think the 4 is being multiplied? Okay.
Don't you multiply those both? Yeah, that's what I think.
How many people think it's the 7? It's not both. You gotta pick one. It's definitely one or the other.
Before that.
Okay, so we'll try that again. So I'll clarify. You definitely are multiplying one or the other. So it's not both. I get that because I do throw a trick question from time to time. Who thinks 4? Raise your hand if you think it's the 4. How many people think it's the 7? How many people genuinely have no idea, and also didn't want to guess? It's like, I don't know. Okay? Whoever said 4, you are correct. Coefficient is my 9. 9 root 2, the coefficient is 9. 4 root 7, my coefficient is 4. I'm multiplying the 9 by the 4. Now, if I look at the 2, the root 2, process of elimination, I'm multiplying that by the 7. Good with that? Coefficient by coefficient, radicand by radicand. What's 9 times 4?
36.
36. What's 2 times 7? 14. Can that be simplified any further?
Yeah.
Yeah, by 2.
No. 14 splits to 2 and 7. It doesn't give me a pair, so I can't split that up any further. Okay? 36 is fine.
Oh, that's easy then.
Yeah. It would be different if this was like 18 and it's 9 and 2. 9 splits to 3 and 3. The 3 can come up front, right? But 14, the factor tree, is only 2 and 7. Okay? That's it. Okay? So now I want everybody to try this guy. So I have 3 terms that I'm multiplying. In North America, we read things left to right, and when we multiply, we only can really multiply groups of 2. We can't multiply groups of 3. That's a little trickier. So, I want you to try to multiply these 2 terms, and when you get that answer, I want you to multiply that answer by root 6x squared. Okay? Go ahead. I want everybody to try this one, alright?